Let me show you how to write an epic blog post step by step. I have used this strategy to write one of my best blog posts ever that has over 1 million readers and that has earned more than $30,000. So in this video, I will show you exactly how I did it and how you can write these awesome blog posts that will rank on top of Google and get a lot of traffic and make you nice income. And by the way, if you want to become a real blogger and learn the only actually working strategy, make sure to sign up to the free masterclass that I have created by clicking the link in the description. In this masterclass, I will teach you everything you need to know to become a successful blogger this year. But now, without wasting any more time, let's dive right into the video. So it all starts from choosing a topic. And these days, you can't just go ahead and write a blog post about yourself. You can't write a blog post where you tell that you had a nice evening yesterday. That doesn't really work because at the end of the day, your blog post needs to rank on top of Google and it needs to answer a question or solve a problem for people that are looking for information online. So when people are typing in searches on Google and other search engines, you want to be one of the top results. And that's like the state of the art of blogging these days. So when it comes to choosing topics, this actually makes it quite easier because if you think about it, if you have to come up with the topic off the top of your head, that requires a lot of creativity, imagination, and skill. But because these days blogging is more about solving problems for people, all you really need to do is just look at the problems that people have. And this is way easier than it sounds. And I'm going to show you 3 ways on how to do this. So we're going to start from this Google search window right here. So we're going to use Google's own data to find these blog post topic ideas. So first and foremost, open up google.com and perhaps choose an incognito mode or delete your history so that your history does not impact these search recommendations, because what I'm about to do right now is type in something and then see what Google suggests. So if you want to write a good blog post, you need to be sure that there's people interested in that topic. In other words, there needs to be people that are searching for that topic on Google. So for example, let's say that you're running a website related to tennis and you want to find a good blog post topic. Well, what you can do is open up Google and type in tennis and then just hit space and you're going to see all these recommendations. Well, these are not looking that promising to me, to be fair. So I might need to target the search a bit more. So I'm going to do something like tennis, how to. So I'm just imagining what people might type in related to tennis. And here you can see these recommendations made by Google. So tennis, how to play, how to serve, how to score, how to watch, how to win a set, how to hold racket, how to keep score, how to hit balls, and whatever. You get the point here. So these are not just some random recommendations that Google does just for fun, but these are actually from Google's own data based on what people are searching for or what you are probably going to search for after you have typed in tennis how to. So these are the most sought after topics related to tennis. And in other words, these all are good blog post topic candidates. And for example, this applies to anything. So I typically write these AI tool review blog posts. And when I'm trying to come up with topic ideas, I'm just writing best AI tools for, and then I'm seeing these recommendations. So best AI tools for students, best AI tools for researchers. These are probably all great blog post topic ideas that I might want to write about. Now, the only thing you need to be sure of before you start writing about some of these is that you want to first of all make sure that that is a great blog post topic idea in a sense that you can actually write a blog post about it. So for example, let's go back to tennis. And if you, for example, see the top recommendation right here where it says tennis center. Well, this is a topic that people in my area search for a lot, but I can't really write a good blog post about tennis center because this is a sports complex located in Vaasa, Finland. And that makes absolutely no sense because it's a place. People are not interested in reading a blog post about that topic because they're just probably looking for tennis courts to reserve or some driving instructions to how to find the place or whatever it is. But you can't really write a blog post about this, so you can't just blindly choose topics from this list. And same goes probably with Tennis TV or Tennis Warehouse Europe. Well, perhaps that's already something you might be able to write a blog post. You would list all these tennis warehouses, but nonetheless, most of the topics here are not like directly good blog post topics. So you need to specify something more so you can do like how to. So basically, all you really need to do is make sure that these blog post topic ideas make sense, that you're not just creating a web page out of thin air to target some kind of a topic that doesn't meet the demand. So you always want to be sure that the blog post topic makes sense. Then second of all, you don't want to choose a topic that has too much competition. So let's, for example, search for best photo editors. And I'm going to use this special operator called all in title colon. And this, after I've searched for this now lists how many blog posts there are or how many pages there are that have these 3 words in the title, that is best photo editors. And as you can see, the number is 5,200. Well, that's not too crazy, but it's already quite a lot. So in this space, you have thousands and thousands of people more experienced than you competing against you in the search results with high quality pages. So this is probably something you shouldn't write about. But when we search for something else, for example, let's do best AI headshot generators, we're going to see that the number is just 300. So this is by an order of magnitude less competitive than the previous topic. And this is already quite promising because 300 results is great. And now don't get confused here, because one thing that is also true is that you shouldn't be looking at these numbers too carefully, or you shouldn't get stuck because of these numbers or because of the competition. Because at the end of the day, if you have a blog and if there is a topic that you basically have to write about, that basically makes sense to have a blog post like that on your blog, then just write it. Don't really worry about this competition. But I would much rather say that this kind of a competitive analysis is important if you're writing on a platform like Medium about a random topic. But if you're already running with your blog, if you have already produced a ton of content on it, if you have chosen your niche in the past, and if you have done everything the right way, then just write everything that belongs to that blog without doing this kind of a competitive analysis, or at least not looking at these numbers. Of course, you want to still do this kind of analysis to see what kinds of results you are competing against, but that's something that I teach in a way greater detail on my course. But nonetheless, this is one way, and in fact, my favorite way for finding blog post topic ideas. And the next strategy is by using your competitors. So you can just open up one of your competing web pages and see the blog post topics that they have covered, and then you can just steal those topics. So for example, here I have searched for how to choose tennis balls. So there are these different types of balls for different types of skill levels. And now I can see that the first result is sponsored. So this is a paid ad basically. But then the next result is called tennisleo.fi. And now if I open up this page, I can actually head over to this page's blog archives section right here. And for example, here I can see that there's this English section right here. So here are all the blog posts that this guy has written about tennis in English. And these are the blog post topic ideas for me. So if I wanted to, I could steal all these topics and write about these, because these are clearly getting him to places. So this is one strategy. And then if you can't really find an archive page like this, or if you can't really find a place where it lists all these blog posts, you can also do this sitemap operator thing or sitemap page. So for example, here we have tennisleo.fi. I'm going to type in /sitemap.xml, and this will list all the sitemaps of this website. And now if I look at these sitemaps, I have a post sitemap, page sitemap, category sitemap, and author sitemap. Now this post sitemap is the one where all the blog posts live. So this is the page where you can find every single blog post that has been published on this web page. And as you can see, the number is 117. And this is really handy because this is just one list, and here you can already see what kinds of topics they have because you can find it from this URL slug, and you can just look at the topics from here. And this is one of my favorite strategies. Just one thing to keep in mind though is that this kind of a sitemap is not always available in every website. And as a matter of fact, I believe that I see that for like 50% of the sites, this does not exist. And then also if you're doing this and you find that there is no sitemap, or that there is a sitemap, but it has only like a couple of blog posts, you sometimes might find those from this page sitemap.xml too. So make sure to check that one out as well. But yeah, so the idea is simple. You copy your competitor's strategy and then you write a better blog post, or all these blog posts that the competitor has written, but do it in a better way. And I'm going to show you what I mean by this later in this video. But for now, it's just important to know that this is the strategy. And then last but not least, you can also use Google Trends to spot new trendy topics related to your topic. So this is also something that has given me awesome results across the way. And just before I tell you how this strategy works, this is not like the main strategy you should use. So you should use the Google recommendation thing and your competitors as the primary two strategies. And this is like the third one that you sometimes can use. But this is just to show you that there are other ways to do that as well. So now let's open up trends.google.com. And then let's type in something like, for example, AI into the search box and then click explore. And then I'm going to choose the region to be worldwide. And I'm going to choose the past 90 days as my time range. And I will tell you why I did this in just a second. But now if we scroll down, we're going to see these related queries. And these are blog post topic ideas. And once again, these are not something you should blindly go for because some of these are way too competitive and some of these definitely don't make a good blog post, but some of them do. So what you can do is see these related queries. You can, for example, see that in the AI space, it's talking about Sora OpenAI and Devin AI. And these are the bigger tools that have been released in the past couple of months. So these have been trending up in the past 90 days. And for example, if I open up Sora.openai, and I'm going to see that there's a huge spike in traffic. And probably the same goes with Devin AI as well. So we can see that there is a huge spike of interest around 2 months ago, and then it has died down. But nonetheless, this shows you what are the current trends. So what you can do here in Google Trends is search for these related queries. You can type in something different as well. You could, for example, do AI tools, AI software, AI trends even. But the only thing that you want to pay attention to is that you type in your industry or niche here. So this will show you the relevant or trendy topics in your space. That's basically the idea here. So for example, we can open up the Wiggle AI. This looks really promising to me because as you can see, this is a relatively new trend as it has only popped up like 3 weeks ago. And as you can see, the data or the numbers are growing constantly. So this is a tool that is becoming popular all the time. And for example, if I now search for Wiggle AI review, and I'm going to put the all in title in front of it, we're going to see that there are only 9 results. And this is the main point of this entire strategy. So you can find these awesome opportunities about the search terms that people are searching for in masses, this means that there are probably hundreds of thousands of people searching for this tool, or at least thousands or tens of thousands. But nonetheless, you're finding this kind of a popular tool that is becoming a household name, yet there is no competition around it. So you see only 9 reviews. And basically this means that if you write a blog post about Wiggle AI, or you write a Wiggle AI review, you're probably going to land in the top 3 search results. And this will give you a huge traffic spike. And I have used this strategy a lot, but this is just something to keep in mind. This is a good strategy if you want to have some initial traction to your blog. So with this strategy, you might have your very new blog rank with a super popular keyword, even if you have just started. But of course, the thing is that, as you already saw, for example, with this Devin or Devin AI, the thing with this is that you're going to see a huge spike in popularity, but then the trend will die down, as you can see here. And then another issue is that while the trend is dying down, the competition is catching up. So for example, here, even though we have like only 1 or 2% of the search volume of this like highest spike that we have here, that still probably means that there are thousands of people searching for this every month. But now there are already a lot of reviews, because as this tool popped up, there are probably thousands and thousands of news websites and bloggers that are targeting this same topic. And as they catch up, the number of blog posts related to this topic would go up, and the trend is going down. So at this point already, you would probably get no traffic at all, even if you wrote a high quality piece of content around Devin AI. So for example, if you wrote a review. And that is like the downside of this strategy. And that's why I really don't use it that much. I use it sometimes, and I think it's good for beginners. I think you can see great results with it, but those results are not long term. So just keep this in mind. So now I have showed you 3 awesome strategies of how to find blog post topic ideas. Next, let's talk about experience. So it is perfectly fine for you to start a blog in some topics about something that you're not that familiar with. And in fact, in some topics, you can connect with other beginners in your audience way better as a beginner yourself, right? So for example, if you learn coding, or if you learn a new skill, let's say gardening or stuff like that, it can actually be way easier to address those issues that other beginners have as a beginner, because you know exactly the pain points. If you're like a seasoned veteran in something, that's good and that's awesome, but you might not remember the struggles that you had as a beginner. So in this sense, in some topics, it is good to be inexperienced. But then also, if you're considering writing about something like finance or something like credit cards, all that kind of online money-making stuff, or health stuff, fitness stuff, whatever, those kinds of topics that impact on people's lives, then it is not okay to be inexperienced as a writer. So you need to have a ton of experience before you write about your topic. And this is something you need to consider before you choose your topic. So it's not only unethical to write about those topics that can have an impact on somebody's life as a non-experienced person, but it's also not going to work, because you're not able to put together a truly unique and useful piece of content that people would actually enjoy, share, link to, and whatever it is. So it's not only unethical, but it's simply not going to work in those topics. Google and other platforms are very strict when it comes to ranking content or recommending content like that to the audience, and they need to be sure that you are somebody who people can trust. And then comes the research. So before you write a blog post, you almost always need to do some kind of a research. And now it's quite tempting to just open up Google and search for your topic, and then look at the top 3 search results, or top 5 or top 10 or whatever, and then just combine those in your own words. But the problem with this is that this is something that even AI can do today. and it's doing it all the time. So if you're writing a blog post, let's say about something like how to tie shoelaces or how to peel an orange, you have millions of other blog posts targeting the same topic, and they have been written in an exact same way. So they have all combined these top 3 results. And I think some people call this Me Too content. So you're just summarizing what's already out there. And this is where it gets interesting. So if you want to become a successful blogger and if you want to have your blog post stand out, you always need to offer something completely new and unique to the internet. So everything in your blog post needs to add to the internet. You can't just summarize. And this is what I think 99% of the bloggers seem to miss. And this is why most blog posts will never get any reads. So if you're not adding anything to the internet with your content, there is no reason for Google to rank it high, or no reason for anyone to share it on social media, to promote it somewhere, and there's no reason for any platform to show it in the first place. So this is something very important to keep in mind. Okay, so as the next step, we're going to check our competitors' blog posts to see what got them there. That is, what are the key aspects or key things that make those blog posts rank on Google? And for example, let's say that you're writing a blog post about how to choose your tennis ball. So there are these different ball types for different skill levels. And now you want to write a blog post for beginners or for whoever is interested in tennis to choose these kinds of balls. So let's type in how to choose tennis balls on Google. And once again, we're going to see this blog post that I already showed you earlier in the search results. And now the thing we want to do is we want to open up this top blog post that's ranking. We're not going to click on this advertisement because basically you can just pay to get here. So that does not necessarily mean that this blog post is awesome. But nonetheless, we click on this one. Then we can also click these other ones. We have some videos here as well. And the thing we want to do here is we want to analyze these top results to see what's in common or what kind of characteristics they have and what has made Google rank these blog posts high. Because this gives us valuable data on how we can write our blog post about this same topic. So as you can see, this blog post has a really nice layout. It also has an image, and it has this table of content, and it also has these nicely formatted blog post chapters, short sentences. This is short and concise. There's no jargon. And then you also see these listings over here. And then we also have images. And by the way, one thing that I can instantly tell this is that these images are not some random stock footage. So these are actually helpful images where the person's actually showing that these are the fast tennis balls. So these are the balls and this is what they look like. So this gives the audience an idea. This is not just some random ChatGPT generated image or a stock footage image that doesn't give you any additional information. So this guy has actually put in the hours and actually taken these images to this blog post. And yeah, then you have these training balls. So he has also taken an image of those as well. And then you also have these orange tennis balls, and that's also with an image. And then you have these green ones. This also has an image. So this looks like a very high quality piece of content that's actually written to the audience. We can actually see what the competitors have done. Is there a similar idea? So for example, here we have tenniswarehouse.com. This is obviously a more commercial blog post because this is a website that's trying to sell these balls as well. And although this looks good to me, this previous one looked way more authentic because this is actually written by a tennis coach that has taken these images and whatnot. We're going to see the rest of these as well. So yeah, tennispoint.com, the same thing here. This is or an online store, so this is probably just promoting these balls. And then we're seeing Decathlon, probably the same thing. yeah, this is actually not that good of a blog post anymore. As you can see, there are no images, there are no comparisons. And then if we look at this extremetennis.fr, we're also going to see a nice blog post. And this actually, yeah, they're also trying to sell these balls. And yeah, I would say that this is also a commercial piece of content. So although you see this kind of you see this green ball over here, and you probably see a training ball or some kind of pressurized ball over here, we can actually see that this is still a commercial piece of content. So I think that well, Google has clearly done the best job here, or has gotten it right. So this #1 blog post and this #1 spot definitely belongs to Tennis Leo, because this is actually the only useful piece of content. Of course, this has also affiliate links, so he's also selling these balls somewhere around here, but it's at the end of the blog post. The content is very useful, but nonetheless, this is the idea here. So you need to analyze your competitors. So as you can see, these previous blog posts that I showed you are very simple, very basic, probably 200 words, 300 words, and then you have all these like images and stuff like that. And basically they are trying to sell these balls to people. So these are not like written in the audience in mind per se. So this is not a beginner friendly guide. This is just to sell them those balls. This is not how to use them and what are the differences. You can instantly tell. And probably actually this guy has also done that. And I actually know that this is a student of mine, so he has done an awesome job with his blog. So I know that he has probably used my strategy here. So he has taken a look at these blog posts before he has written his. So as you can see, these are all looking the same. They're all promoting all those balls, but they are not providing useful information to the readers. So what my student did was that he actually wrote this amazing piece of content. And this is what you want to do. And now if you want to stand out and if you want to write a blog post that is better than this blog post, you need to put in even more time. So for example, one idea that pops up into my mind right off the bat is that you could, for example, put a comparison, side-by-side comparison of how these balls bounce, for example. So you could take a short video at your home or on a tennis court or whatever to make it even more insightful. And you could also even take a video of yourself hitting those balls or somebody hitting those balls side by side, so people can get an idea of what's the difference. So it's not only about writing a blog post, it's not just about text, but it's also about providing value to your audience. Even though I haven't really laid down the foundation for you on how to actually do this, I'm just giving you ideas off the top of my head. I will show you this later in this guide, but for now, it's just good to understand that this is one of the #1 strategies you can write blog posts with. So you open up Google, you type in your topic, you see all your competitors, and you see how or what kind of blog posts they have written and what has gotten them to the top of the Google search results. And this is one of my favorite strategies. I do this every single time before I write a blog post, and I have written more than 1,000 blog posts in my life, and I've always done this. Do the research, but don't just summarize. You need to learn as you go, and you need to become an expert at your topic, and then you can truly add value to the internet. And this is actually an important point, and it's also related to the previous one. So when you start a blog about something that you're not familiar with, it is fine. You're not going to be able to write high quality pieces of content that would actually rank on Google and that would actually get reads. But hey, who would expect even that in the first place? If you're starting something from scratch, it's completely fine to do it for a really long time without seeing any significant results. So when you start a blog, you need to change your attitude and you need to switch this kind of an entrepreneurial mindset. So you want to start as a beginner, but you want to grow to be one of the top voices in the space that you target. And this goes with every single blog post topic. So you want to make sure that you improve on every single blog post that you write. And it doesn't need to be a huge improvement. Actually, it can be a very small and gradual improvement. For example, you can think of every single blog post like, I'm going to write this to be 1% better than the previous one. And with this strategy, you will eventually grow to become one of the top voices in your space. And that is the way to go. So yes, you can start as a non-experienced, no expertise person, but you want to become an expert as you write. And I have done this on a lot of blogs that I run. So for example, I started a blog as a complete inexperienced person around a topic that is relevant to people in Finland. And I had absolutely no idea about that topic. I wrote everything based on the research that I did, but that kind of content wasn't really good. So as I wrote, I learned more and more and more about that topic. And now I can produce one of these 2,000 word blog posts off the top of my head without any planning, any research. And I can do all these visualizations, link to the right resources, and share some valuable insights and my own takes about that topic, because I have actually become kind of an expert in it, because I have spent like 400 hours writing blog posts about it. And this is what you want to do. You want to create a blog post or a blog that is the best resource on the entire internet about your topic. And the only way to do this is by spending the time and becoming a qualified expert in that space. So next, let's start taking steps towards writing the blog post. So the first thing you want to do is create an outline for your blog post. And this is simply because if you think about a blog post that only has a title, it's quite intimidating. You kind of have no idea where to even start from. But if you write an outline, for example, let's say 20 talking points, you have just successfully split your blog post into 20 smaller posts. So instead of having to write, let's say, 2,000 words in one go, you can write 100 words in 20 goes. And this is super useful because it will make your workflow so much smoother. All you really need to do is write a 100-word blog post, and I bet that anybody can do that. So it's making the task a lot easier. So start with an outline. And by the way, please don't get confused here. I'm using the medium.com editor to write this blog post and to do this tutorial with, but you can do this on your WordPress blog. And I have a bunch of WordPress blogs. I'm sure most of you are also working on WordPress, but whether you're using WordPress or Medium, it doesn't really matter. The same strategy and the same technique applies. I'm just using Medium for now because it's way easier to use for a tutorial like this. So just don't get confused because of this. So nonetheless, here is my blog post topic idea. And by the way, I'm not saying that this is a good blog post topic idea. It's just something that I'm showing you here to demonstrate or to show you how to actually write one of these. So now, here we have the title, but nothing else. Now, if you just have a title right over here, I mean, like, where do you even start? This is super intimidating and super demotivating, and it's going to overwhelm you from the beginning. And this is why I always recommend writing down an outline for your blog post. That is, you're going to split your blog post into smaller sub posts, and this makes it a lot easier to write about. You can also change the title from how to increase productivity at home, for example, to 15 tips on how to increase productivity at home, or whatever it is. But you see that I just split this blog post into 15 smaller sub posts. And for example, if you have determined based on your research that you're going to write about a 2,000 word lengthy piece of super useful and detailed piece of content, then you can split this into 15 steps, and you only need to write like 120 words, or however the math plays out. But you need to write 15 pieces of 120 word blog posts. So this makes it a lot easier task, because it's much easier to write 100 words or whatever than it is to write 2,000 words in one go. And now you can start writing the outline, for example, by using ChatGPT. So now I'm asking ChatGPT for 30 tips, even though I'm writing only 15 of them, because usually ChatGPT does some silly things here, and most of these tips are not worth adding to the list or not worth even trying. So I'm just going to overshoot it by 15 so that I'm making sure that I can cut out up to 15 of them before adding those into my blog posts. And now, as you can see, I have an awesome list of these productivity tips right here. And now I can paste these in, and sometimes the formatting is incorrect, but that's not the main point here. So now what you want to do is you want to go through these and you want to make sure that these are actually correct. So you can't just blindly trust it. And what I mean by this is that you can't just go through these, but you actually need to try this out. So if you want to write a good piece of content and if you want to truly stand out, you need to be able to not only like list these tips here, but you need to show yourself doing this, and at least you need to refer to some statistics on why you should do one of these. Because if you're just listing this and if you're just writing it out, you can even ask ChatGPT to write a 100-word section for this, but that's basically useless. That's what everybody else has done, and that's not going to stand out. You will have probably tens of thousands of blog posts like this all over the internet, and every single one of them have these same tips. And it doesn't really help you to only list everything that has been listed before. You need to be able to stand out. And that's just something I need to mention here. So even though you can use ChatGPT to get ideas for your article and to your outline, you first and foremost need to make sure that it actually makes sense. So you can't just blindly add these tips, because most of them are probably not that useful tips after all. And then you also need to make sure that you're going to stand out. So you can't just ask ChatGPT to list all these random things that you can do at home to increase productivity and then just blindly trust it and then write it out with ChatGPT as well. That's not going to get you anywhere. And I have previously tried out blogging with AI, so I have found out that it's not that great. I have actually a blog that had like 100 blog posts written with AI that I had actually edited nicely to make them stand out, but that blog still got 0 reads, so that makes absolutely no sense. So use AI wisely. So that's something that I have to bring up here. But to be brutally honest, AI is really good at coming up with these outlines. And then also one thing you want to be sure of is that your outline is more detailed and more comprehensive than your competitors. So for example, if your competitors have listed 5 tips on how to increase productivity at home, or 10 tips, or even 20 tips, you, for example, could include 30 tips. You always need to be sure that you're going to provide your audience with a superior outline and a superior blog post than whatever exists on the internet. Because these types of lists have existed for years, and there is so much competition. So if you just produce another 5 tips on how to increase productivity at home, that's probably not going to land you anywhere. And I'm not saying that you should always add like 20 more talking points to your blog post only to make it longer than what your competitors have done. No, that's not the point. Your blog post should be exactly as long as it needs to be to cover your topic. But what you want to do is cover your topic so well that nobody else has ever done that in that good way. And once you write, make sure to write listicles only. And what I mean by listicle is that instead of writing a blog post like how to tie shoelaces, you can write a blog post like 7 steps to tie shoelaces, or 3 ways to tie shoelaces. So you want to list things one after another here. And this is not only beneficial for you because it makes your blog post easier to write, but it also makes your blog content more appealing to your audience. And that's simply because you have a number here. So if you say, for example, 3 easy ways to tie shoelaces, that looks much more promising than a generic how to tie shoelaces, because you're going to learn 3 easy things to do to get your shoelaces tied. And I don't know the research behind this, or I don't know like the science behind this, or psychology, or whatever it is, but for some reason people are drawn into these numbers. It probably just signals them that this is a blog post they can read in a hurry. They can pick one of these easy steps and they can run with it, and instead of like having a generic how to tie shoelaces. And this is simply how it works, and I have seen it work on my blog post. I can't back it up with science. I don't know whether there are some studies around this or not, but I have seen that all the time my best performing articles are ones that are listicles, that is blog posts that list some tips related to a topic. So whenever you're writing a product review or a how-to guide or even an informational piece of content, try to turn it into a listicle. It is going to make it easier for your audience, and it's also going to make it a lot easier for yourself. And just to demonstrate to you this, here's for example one of my well-performing Medium articles, and as you can see, this is 12 best AI image upscaling tools. So I have listed all these awesome products that upscale images, that is, they turn these low resolution images to higher resolution. And of course, if you're reading this, you're probably only going to click the number 1 or number 2 or even the number 3 result, but I have listed 12 of them just in case. So I have included some versatility and variability in this blog post to make it the most comprehensive piece of content on the entire internet. So as you can see, something like this is very easy to read. You only have these like numbered elements here, and then you can check what the tool is capable of, and then we're moving on to the next tool in line. So this is super easy to read for your audience. This makes it so much easier for you as well to write, because as you can see, this is super long blog post. If it was just about like how to upscale images with AI, I would have very tough time coming up with this long of a blog post. But because I'm listing these awesome tools, it's much easier for me to write. And now, before you actually write your blog post, mind this one thing. You do not need a specific writing order. So you don't need to start from a title, then go with the introduction, and then start to work on this outline. But like the only thing I would do, or I would actually recommend, is to write so that you do the research, you find the topic, and then you write the outline, and then everything else that follows is up to you. So you can, for example, write the introduction as the last step before writing the blog post, or before publishing the blog post rather. You can write the heading or the title as the last step. If you get stuck somewhere in the blog post, you can jump over that section and come back later. It doesn't really matter, as long as you are able to create this kind of a comprehensive, detailed, and easy to read and easy to digest blog post, then it's really not an issue in which order you write it. The title is the most important part of your blog post, because that's the only thing that people are going to see before they click through. And the title can be very simple, but you can also put some extra effort in it to make it even better. So those short and simple and concise titles are already good, and some might argue that those are even the best kinds of titles that you can write, because they exactly describe the blog post. But you can also add some little elements into your title to make them stand out even better, while keeping them short and concise and descriptive. Let me show you an example. So let's say that you have a blog post on how to tie shoelaces. Well, the first title that comes to your mind is probably how to tie shoelaces. And there's absolutely nothing wrong in that. I think this is an awesome title. It's modest, it's simple, it's not salesy, it's not pushy. It's plain and simple, and it's telling exactly what your blog post is about. So this is already a really good title. So always, when you're coming up with a title for your blog post, the number one thing is to keep in mind that you want to keep it short, and you want to describe exactly what's going on in that blog post. But there are also some things you can do to make it stand out a bit. So if you think about a title like how to tie shoelaces, there are probably millions of these already out there. So what you want to do is add some personality and make it a bit different than all the rest of those titles. So the first thing you can do is add a number here. So for example, if you have a blog post on how to tie shoelaces and you notice that there are like 8 steps on how to do that you're showing in the article, you can do something like, instead of how to tie shoelaces, you can do something like 8 steps to tie shoelaces. This is already good, and as I mentioned earlier, these numbers are driving people crazy. People are always going to click through when they see numbers in the titles. So this is already a better title, in my opinion, than just a plain old how to tie shoelaces. And then you can do something even more appealing. That is, you can write an adjective here before these steps to tie shoelaces. So for example, you can do something like 8 easy steps to tie shoelaces. And then what you can do to make it stand out even more is add parentheses at the end of your title. And here you can typically see something like the year number. But of course, because tying shoelaces is not necessarily related to what year it is, this is probably not a good idea. This is something if you're doing like movie recommendations or product reviews, then you might want to add the year number like this, because this will also drive more traffic because this shows relevancy. But anyways, you can use the same idea on a how-to guide or an evergreen how-to guide like this. For example, you can do something like to prevent unlacing or something like this, just to be a bit more personal with the topic. So 8 easy steps to tie shoelaces to prevent unlacing. And this, in my opinion, is already looking a lot better than just the boring little how to tie shoelaces. But this is also something that is heavily dependent on your opinion, and there is no right or wrong answer here, because if everybody does it this way, then a plain old how to tie shoelaces might actually be a better option than adding all these year numbers and adding all these cool words and capitalized letters and emojis and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying. So you want to be sure, after all, you want to be sure that your title is simple, short, concise, and it lets the audience know exactly why they should click through. So don't overthink it. Keep these steps that I gave you, or these tips that I gave you, in mind. You can use this on all of your titles. Try to use a number if possible. If you can add a year number, use that as well, but don't do it blindly because it doesn't make sense in all contexts. And this is how you create a perfect title for your blog post. Oh, and here's also where you can use ChatGPT to your advantage. So for example, here I have asked ChatGPT to provide me with 10 simple and short but clickable and appealing titles for my blog post on how to tie shoelaces. And although I don't really like every single one of these, some of these are really good. So for example, this Never Trip Again, Master the Art of Shoelace Tying. Well, this part is really good, so never trip again. That could be something that I could add in the parentheses section of this title that I created earlier. So if you're using ChatGPT here, once again, these titles are not good as it is. These are way too generic and usually way too pushy. You can't really use this as is, at least most of the time. But what you can do is you can pick some words here. For example, here's the 101, that's a good idea. And that Never Trip Again, that's a good idea. And techniques is a good word also. And of course, if you find a good title from these ChatGPT suggestions, then use it as it is. But as you can see, these are not too great, to be honest, because, for example, here, elevate your style, creative ways to tie your shoelaces. The problem with this one is that it only says to tie your shoelaces here at the end. And if you think about people scrolling through search results, they are just quickly reading what it says in the title. So, for example, this elevate your style doesn't say anything about shoelaces, so people are probably just going to scroll through. They are not going to read at the end of the title, even though it's a short one. Elevate your style doesn't ring any bells if somebody is looking for a quick guide on how to tie shoelaces. So just keep that in mind. Try to keep it simple. try to exactly tell the audience what the blog post is about as early as possible in your title. So just keep it simple, keep it natural, and make sure that people want to click your titles and they know exactly what to expect from your blog content. And these days, blog posts that are successful are all about being accessible to everybody. And I mean absolutely everybody. So if you think about a traditional online searcher, people had a lot of time. They jumped on these search results, they clicked through, they read all these blog posts from start to finish. They spent hours of researching simple things. And that's what it used to be. But these days, people do not have that kind of patience anymore. So if you're looking for information, you expect to find it in seconds. And also people are very busy these days. So you need to take into account both of these audience types. You need to take into account the busy ones as well as the not so busy ones. So what does this mean when you write your blog post? Should you write short blog posts only, or should you write long blog posts? Well, you should write both at the same time. And I know this sounds a bit crazy, but it's actually not. So if you want to make your blog post accessible to both busy and not busy readers, add a short form blog post version of your blog post at the top of your post, and then add a long form version after it. So this way, your blog post is both short form and long form content. And I think this is an epic strategy because this way, Google and other platforms have no other options but to suggest your content to the audience, because that's catering towards all the people, not just the busy people by providing a short answer, but also the not so busy people that are interested in reading the blog post from start to finish by providing this super long and detailed answer. And this is what all of your content should be. So your blog post should be a super long and detailed and informative and original and unique piece of content, but that should be preceded by this short form, almost like a key takeaway section of your blog content at the top of your post, so that somebody who's in a hurry doesn't have to spend more than 10 seconds reading your content. Now I'm going to show you two very simple examples of myself doing this. So first of all, we have this blog post on best AI video generators on the internet. And this is a 30-minute blog post. So this is super comprehensive and detailed. And it lists all these tools, and I'm showing exactly how to use these tools as well. So this is the most comprehensive blog post about this topic on the web. But the problem is that not everybody has time to read a 30-minute blog post written by a random guy on the internet. And that's why I have created this kind of a short form version of this blog post right here at the top of it. So this is for the people who only have 15 seconds. So did you know you can create AI videos? I have used all these tools, yada, yada, yada. And then here are the top 4 picks. Click to activate your free trial. And here you can click any one of these tools. These are my top picks. And now you can already bounce. So you don't need to read any further if you just trust my word. And if you don't want to see these results, or if you don't really care about this whole guide. And this is one way to do it. And then also, as another example, here's my blog post on what is an affiliate link. And because this is a topic, or this is kind of a blog post where you can answer with 1 or 2 sentences, I have done exactly that. So here I'm saying that an affiliate link is a URL that contains an ID associated with a partner of a product. If a customer makes a purchase through that link, the partner earns a commission. And this is a perfect answer to busy people. And here's even an example. So this is once again something that you only need to read this part if you want to, and you don't need to read any further. But then I have also written this kind of a more detailed blog post. Although it's not that long, I have included all these affiliate link examples, so what they might look like and what they actually mean in practice. So this is making sure that the people that are busy are getting their answer from this. And then those that are not busy, that have 5 to 10 minutes to spare, they can read the entire thing to learn what it actually means. And this is the way to write blog posts. So you want to write both a short form version of your blog post and a long form version of your blog post. So as you can see, both of these blog posts continue, and especially this last one continues basically forever. So this really takes a really long time to read. And yeah, so that's the thing. Provide value to all types of your audience. Cater towards busy readers as well as the non-busy readers. This is the only way to make it stand out. You need to think about accessibility, because the best blog post is accessible to everybody. Then, if you already didn't do it earlier when I talked about these talking points and outlines, make sure to split your blog post content into subheadings and sub-subheadings. So I would almost think of it as tying your blog post together in these shorter packets and then adding a subheading or sub-subheading, or however deep the structure is, to sell that packet to your audience. And that doesn't have to mean that it's salesy, but you only need to let your audience know that, okay, this one section ends here, and here's the title of the next section, very similar to how you have a title on your blog post. You're kind of like calling to the action or encouraging the reader to read further in your blog post by saying that this is what's going to happen next. And this also makes the blog post scrollable. So if somebody's busy, they don't have to read everything. They can just quickly scroll through the content and they will still have a good idea of what's going on, because you have labeled these packets or text sections in a clever way that is easy to follow and easy to digest. Let me show you a quick example. And just notice that if you have planned your blog post carefully, you are probably not going to face this issue. But even with careful planning, you still find from time to time that you're going to write a huge wall of text like this with absolutely no structure. So if you have a couple of 100 words, one after the other, without images, without any kind of structure, you might need to group that wall of text into logical pieces. And here I'm going to show you this with an entire blog post that I have about a headset. So as you can see, this looks super boring, and you never want your blog post to look this way. What you want to do is instead group your blog post into logical sections and then give them a name. So for example, here's the introduction. I would call it intro, but because I already have my title here, that makes absolutely no sense. Then here I'm clearly listing the key features of the product. So I am selling this section to the audience by just calling it key features, and nothing too crazy about that. Then when the list is over, I have clearly started to talk about my experience. Sorry, it jumped somewhere. I have clearly started to talk about my experience with the product. So here I can call it my experience. And as you can see, this also makes it easy for somebody who's busy to just skim through. So, okay, here's the review, here are the features. Okay, I'm going to scroll through that, and then I'm going to read this my experience part. So this makes it a lot easier for your audience as well. And this way you will give some nice structuring and logic to your blog post that is easy to follow, even if somebody's just scrolling through. Because most of the people are busy these days and people are not reading blog content like they used to, this is super important to do. You never want to end up with a wall of text like this. So you always need to make sure that there's some structuring. And for example, here in the My Experience section, I am talking about a lot of things. So this section would end up being very long if I ended it somewhere like, I would say here. So I would need to add some subheadings into this section. So for example, here I could say, I'm talking about starting to use this, so I can put something like getting started. And then I'm using this as subheading, so I'm not turning it into a main heading like this, but because this part belongs to this part, I'm going to turn it into a subheading like this. And this way I'm going to introduce even more logic recursively into this longer section in a blog post. And you can do this as much as you want and as much as you need. So you can do subheadings, sub-subheadings, even sub-subheadings, although I don't think that's possible on Medium, but on WordPress it certainly is. As long as you need and as much as you want, as long as it makes sense to your audience. So this way you're going to make your blog post read really nicely, and it's scrollable, skimmable, and it has a simple logic that it follows. Then one thing you want to do with your blog content is keep it conversational and very casual. So these days you don't really want to, or it doesn't really even make sense to try to sound smarter than what you actually are. If you look at the blog posts on the internet, basically all of them these days will start with something like, in the day and age of digital era. And that is so freaking boring. And then they have this image of somebody wearing a suit. And then I'm like, come on, man. That's the 100th blog post today that has started the exact same way. And the reason is quite simple. That's simply because the AI tools have taken over, so people are using those to write content. But if your blog post starts like that, I can guarantee you that there will be no visitors to it whatsoever. So these days, you need to stand out from the masses. If you're just using cheap freelancers, or if you're just rephrasing what others have told, or if you're just following this kind of a formula, using some complex words and generic language, there is no way any platform would promote your content, or no way that Google would rank your content high, because you have millions of competitors already doing the exact same as you. So you're basically just one of million if you're doing it that way. So please keep it conversational and show your personality in your blog content. Don't try to make your blog post like this gray wall of text where you're just stating facts using generic and super boring language and generic and super boring images. That's not going to work whatsoever. Just as an example, look at this blog post that I have written about these best AI headshot generators. It's a very conversational piece of content. I always like to think about, or when I'm writing this blog post, I like to think of it as writing a message to my friend. Of course, it's not like a completely like a message that has gotten out of hand type of thing, but it's this very simple conversational piece of content where I'm talking to the audience directly. So for example, did you know you can use AI to generate professional headshots? So instead of like talking to the audience in a way like the users can generate images, I'm talking to them directly. So I'm talking like, you can generate these images. And then I'm also not following any kind of a script here, very similar to what I'm doing right now when I'm recording this video. I'm just talking off the top of my head. I don't have any kind of a script here. And this is making it natural. It's making it sound personal. It's at least somewhat showing who I am. For example, here, when I'm analyzing these images somewhere, for example, here, I'm incorporating some jokes as well. So I'm saying like, I mean, come on, what a handsome guy I am, stuff like that. So this is giving it some kind of personalized touch because I want to show some humor. I want to be myself in my blog post, and it's very hard to do if you're just writing a blog post with AI, or if you're just writing a generic piece of content to try to replicate what's already there on the internet. If you're using all these generic words or overly complex sentences, and if you're using a lot of passive voice and stuff like that, it's going to look exactly like all the rest of the blog posts on the internet, and it's simply never going to give you any kinds of results. So please keep it conversational, and if you want a good tip, treat it like a message to your friend. This way, you're going to write a relaxed, conversational, and friendly piece of content that's actually helpful, understandable, and easy to enjoy and easy to digest. And speaking of keeping your blog posts conversational, also make sure to cut out every single piece of jargon from your content, because that's what the AI can do. That's what anybody can do. Anybody can write a 1,000 piece of content out of a topic that only would require 50 words. But that's nothing to be proud of. That's not something that these platforms want. At the end of the day, you're serving to your audience, you're providing value to your people, and the best way to do that is by keeping your blog posts as long as they need to be. You don't want to add any words or any filler words, anything that would make your content longer than it is, because that's simply 100% useless and that's never going to work. For example, look at this blog post. This is supposed to be a review of 4 best AI headshot generator products. Yet there's only text when you're opening the blog post. Now this part is complete jargon and it's completely useless. You can delete all of this from your blog post, because at the end of the day, you want to provide value to your audience and you don't want to add some generic jargon to make the visitor stay longer, because the visitor is clever these days. They know that they will find solutions or blog posts that do not include this kind of trash at the beginning. So if somebody sees a blog post like this that is supposed to be a list of products and they only see text, they will click away instantly. So do not add any jargon to your blog post. Only make every single word count. Do not add anything that doesn't belong there. And I'm going to show you an example of this same blog post with an actually good introduction. So here you can see that it's simply a one-liner that I'm asking the audience with. So I'm asking them that did they know that they can do this with AI? And then here I'm showing the image of the real myself and then the AI version, so they will get a picture of what kinds of products I'm reviewing today. Then I'm letting them know that this takes 5 minutes of their time. And then I'm also letting them know that this is expensive technology, so I have tested these products so that they don't have to. And in case they're still interested in testing the products, here are also the top 3 picks from the list. There's no jargon, there's no complicated words. I'm not trying to outsmart the visitor. I'm not trying to waste their time. This is straight to the point, only short sentences, an important and valuable piece of content. And this is all the way like this. So this gives the audience an idea that this blog post is actually good and there's no jargon anywhere else in the blog post. And as you can see, I fulfilled that promise quite well, because I'm literally just letting the reader know how these tools work and how I'm using them. I have added absolutely no text to make this blog post longer or to make it sound more interesting or whatever. This is a purely original, natural piece of content where I'm listing these products and showing how to use them. This is how you write blog content. And I kind of already touched this already, but remember to be authentic. So for example, I write a lot of blog posts that review these AI tools. And the way most people write these reviews is that they take Google search results, they combine the top 3 results, and they just list these products. But what I do instead is I try every single one of these products and I show myself using those products. And this way I can create much more authentic and original pieces of content. And this applies to every single blog post that you write. For example, one of my students writes a lot of tennis related content. And he's not just listing facts about tennis, but he's actually showing himself testing the products, showing himself playing, taking all these images of himself on the court and whatever. And this is simply just so much better than trying to force your blog content into a specific formula where you use a specific language and you're not trying to interact or engage or connect with the audience whatsoever. So be real, be you, be authentic, show your experiences and expertise in every single blog post that you ever write. I mean, look at the authenticity of this blog post. If you compare this one to a traditional guide on the best AI headshot generators, you're probably only going to see somebody using generic Unsplash stock images or AI generated images and then using them on the AI generators, or even just listing these products one after the other without showing any kinds of results or any kinds of experience. And this is one of the biggest problems you will find on the internet, that people forget about authenticity, originality, and experiences. And those 3 are the most important things when it comes to ranking a blog post high on Google. So if we scroll through this blog post, you can see that it's showing my face absolutely everywhere. And I'm not saying that you need to show your face. In most of the content ideas, it doesn't even make sense to show your face, but you still need to stand out. You need to be yourself in your text. So for example, when I'm writing this blog post, I'm literally trying out the product at the same time, and I'm sharing my initial thoughts and experiences without any kind of a script. I'm literally telling the audience exactly the way I feel. And that's what you want to do. You want to be authentic, you want to be original, you want to share your experiences and expertise with every single blog post and every step of the way. So as you can see, we can scroll to any part of this blog post, and none of this is AI generated content. It's literally all about myself trying these products and letting the audience know what I feel about them. And this is what you want to do. And one of the ways to do this is by including these images of yourself trying some kind of a product, doing some kind of a strategy, demonstrating some kind of a technique, or whatever it is in your blog post that you can make it stand out with. Is you should do it. And you should be authentic and original and show your experience and expertise every step of the way. And if you have a blog post topic such as something like what is a cat or how to tie shoelaces, that is very generic and that has already been covered millions of times before on the internet, and you can't really do this kind of stuff there, then it's probably not a good idea to write about that topic, because there is no way for you to stand out unless you're able to build this kind of a tower that is 10 times taller than your audience by building this kind of authentic and original and experience-rich content. And speaking of authenticity, use simple language. As you can see from this video, as you can see from all of my 1000 plus blog posts that I have ever produced, I use very simple language. I do not try to outsmart my audience, and I'm not trying to make myself sound more intelligent than what I actually am, because that's not relatable, it doesn't make any sense, that's not real me, that's not who I am. So why do that in your blog post? That makes absolutely no sense. Use simple language. And also, this is not just because I say so, but if you think about it, if you try to deliver your message to your audience, is it easier for them to understand your content if you use this super complicated and long language and long sentences, or is it just easier if you say it like it is with a very simple sentence? I would much rather go with the latter one, because that's simply getting the message out there, and that's getting it delivered as quickly as possible. Because at the end of the day, every single blog post that you write should cater towards your audience. It should save their time, save their money, and save them from hassle. So you want to make it as frictionless and as seamless as possible. So do not try to outsmart your audience with complicated language. That will simply drive them away. Now please pay attention to how stupidly simple language I'm using in this blog post. So I'm opening it up with, recently I built an app in 6 hours that makes $1,500. I could use a lot fancier words. I could say, I developed this software application in 6 hours of time that earns me recurring $1,500 every single month. But that doesn't make me sound any more clever than what I actually am, right? It's actually trying to make me sound smarter than I am, and it's only trying to outsmart the audience. It's making the blog post more complicated to read, and it's making it harder to understand. It's making them longer, and it's all I'm trying to say here is that it's only trying to force my audience to click away. And this is what you don't want to do. You want to write blog posts in a very simple language. I always want to think of it as writing a blog post for an 8th grader. Your message needs to be clear. You don't want to outsmart your visitors. You definitely don't want to sound like some kind of a higher authority that is talking from up there. It doesn't make any sense. You want to be relatable and you want to be easy to understand. Otherwise, people are not going to stick around. And then when you write blog posts, use a lot of multimedia elements. And I'm referring to images, visualizations, illustrations, infographics, even embedding videos, and basically anything you can do to stand out from the masses. Because once again, a blog post is not just a wall of text. Writing a blog post is the easiest part of writing a blog post, ironically. The hardest part is making it stand out, adding valuable information, experiences, expertise. And one way to take it to the next level, and one way to do it better than most, is by adding a lot of images. And now, do not add those freaking AI images or stock footage from libraries like Unsplash. Of course, I use Unsplash sometimes as well, but most of the images that I produce, or most of the images that I add into my blog posts, are actually images of myself doing something, whether it's trying a product, playing a sport, or whatever. But you should add original and unique images that support the content. You don't want to add an image of a cat into a blog post about a dog, but you don't also want to add a generic image that kind of represents what you're trying to say in your blog post, but you need to add an image that is exactly a perfect match to that piece of text in your blog post. So for example, if you say that you're playing tennis with a softball, add an image of yourself playing tennis with a softball. Do not generate one because it's inaccurate, and definitely don't use one from a stock library because that's even more inaccurate. So you want to be able to produce these supporting images that help you deliver your message. If an image doesn't add value to your content, leave it out. Now please take a look at these images that I have produced in this blog post. So as you can see, all these images in this content is directly related and relevant to this blog post. None of it is stock footage. These are blog post images that directly support the understanding of the content, and I'm showing exactly what's going on in the blog post, and I'm backing it up with these images that basically share my experiences with blogging, because this blog post is about blogging. And this is the way to go. Also, if you look at this blog post where I list the best blogging tools, it is not just a boring list like this or a boring wall of text, but I'm showing exactly how to use every single one of these tools on the list by showing these images and sharing actual results with these products. And this is the only way to stand out. If you want to write good blog content, you need to add images into your blog post, and you need to add a lot of those, but you should avoid stock footage and generic AI images at all costs. And of course, sometimes it is hard to add images into your blog posts. If this is the case, then create visualizations to support your learning. So for example, if you have a maths tutorial on how to solve Pythagorean's theorem, that doesn't really make sense to add an image of yourself doing that, because that's not helpful to the audience. They want to learn what is Pythagorean theorem, not to see how you're solving it in a generic setting. So that's, although it's authentic and original, that's not too helpful. So what you want to do is you can create a visualization or illustration where you show this right triangle and the equation to the Pythagorean theorem formula. And that's something that I do all the time as well. So if there's no suitable image of myself or a screenshot that I could take from a product that I'm using or whatever, then I can just create a visualization with, for example, Canva. It's very easy to use. I'm not a designer. I'm far from it. I have no design skills whatsoever, but I can still produce these pretty decent visualizations to my blog content. For instance, look at this blog post. Here I'm telling the audience what's an affiliate link, and here I have produced very simple illustrations of an affiliate link. And as you can see, this looks like something that has been produced by a 5-year-old. But that's the way my design skills are right now, so that's the type of content that I'm producing. The main point here is that I'm providing value with the audience by adding these images to explain the content or context even more. And these kind of supporting images are always what are working the best. And here you can see that I have produced even more, well, pretty spammy looking images, but these are actually the way I have designed them. And because I don't have any design skills, these are what they end up looking like. So this is authentic. This is me just being myself in the blog content. And these images are still providing a lot of value to the audience. They will know exactly what's going on. And they can even save these images if they want to. But the point here is that you need to create visualizations and images and illustrations to your blog posts to make them stand out. Without these, with just writing boring walls of text, you will never ever get traffic to your blog posts. That is not how any platform promotes content. It's never based on just text. The audience needs to enjoy the blog content, and search engines and blogging platforms need to see this as well. So if you have a wall of text, people will just click away. If you don't have any images, if you don't have any visualizations, that's basically useless, because these days you can even use AI, or you can just generate words basically if you want to. But that's not going to benefit anybody. You need to stand out with visualizations, charts, infographics, and images. And speaking of visualizations, you also need to make sure that your blog post is enjoyable to read all the time, even without those multimedia elements. So you want to add headings, subheadings, lists, tables, numbered lists, bolding, links, all these kinds of elements that split the text nicely or break it down nicely, and to avoid making it look like a wall of text. So even without these images and multimedia stuff, your blog content should still look enjoyable to read. So make sure every part of your content is formatted nicely as well. So if you, for example, find yourself listing things in your content in a single paragraph, just break it down to a numbered list. Or if you repeat something or some actions or whatever, then you can split it into a bulleted list. So for example, if you're telling somebody some scenarios in which something might occur, don't just write a text chapter like this to explain everything in one go, but split it into, let's say, 3 bulleted list elements. And this is how you make your blog content stand out even more and look nicer, and that basically makes it also read nicer, and that also helps you deliver your message, and it keeps your audience engaged. Now, this is also something you can do based on your liking and based on what makes sense to you. So this is not rocket science. There's no equation or formula to follow. But the way I tend to think about it is that you want to make your blog post as versatile and as quote-unquote colorful as possible, because at the end of the day, as I have stated many times before in this video, people don't want to read a wall of text or a wall of text with some images. You need to play with the text. You need to make it look more appealing than just text. So for example, here you can see that I have written this blog post about the best blogging tools. So instead of just writing an introduction, I have actually introduced a lot of space between these chapters, and actually these are just one sentence or 2 sentences separated by a blank space or a new row actually. And this will already give some breathing room to this blog post. And especially if you're reading this with a mobile device where these chapters look very long, a short sentence or 2 like this per line looks very nice. And it's definitely avoiding that long wall of text effect that happens if you place, let's say, 10 sentences one after the other without a new line. So that's one thing I do. Then I also use bolding quite a bit. There's no equation once again. You can do it as much as you like to. Of course, you don't want to overdo it. But for example, here when I'm talking about these products, I'm recommending Google to bloggers because this gives blog post ideas. And then I'm saying something here, and then I have bolded the most important part, which basically tells the audience that these blog posts or these Google recommendations are good blog post topics. So this is definitely something that the visitor should take home. And then I also have these subheadings. I have split some parts into these numbered lists. I have used images, more images, and then I have also links in my blog content. And as you can see, it's flowing really nicely because there's never just a wall of text where one sentence follows the other, that sentence follows the other, and so on and so on. But it's always like jumping around. So there's image, bolded text, text, line break, text, image, text, line break, bolded text, image. And this is the way to write blog posts, in my opinion. So you want to make sure that every part of your blog post looks very appealing and visually pleasing, and there kind of needs to be going on a lot at the same time. So as you can see, if we scroll anywhere in this blog post, there is a lot going on. There's an image, there's text, there's already another image. You basically want to see that wherever you go in your blog post, there should be at least one image and some bolding or some subheadings or lists or tables or whatever you can imagine of. But it never should look like a boring wall of text where you only have text in the view. It should be pleasing like this. Then you also want to make sure that you link to other resources in your blog content. So first and foremost, if you do research for one of your blog posts and you find a really insightful blog post or video or news article, make sure to link to that in your blog content, because that way you're providing even more value to your audience. So for example, if I have a sentence like this in one of my blog posts where I tell that Google's market share is 83.49%, I can't just tell it like this, because how can the audience trust me? The least I can do is I actually need to link to the place where I found this information from. So for example, in this case, it was this blog post on Bing versus Google, search engine comparison. So this was an insightful read, and it also stated this market share thing right over here. So I am going to link to it in this section right here. And because this is not a scientific paper, you don't really have to worry about citations and the formatting. You can simply just highlight the text and link to it, and that's it. And you also need to do this in other places. So if you have a blog post where you write something and then you learned something interesting in some other resource, please link to that resource, because you're providing value to your audience by sharing them with an insightful read that you love to read. And that's probably just going to make them even more happier, because they will also like to read that blog post. And don't forget to link to your blog content as well, because if you think about Google, if you think about searching for something online, you do the search, you find a result, you read the blog post, you jump back, never to return. And especially if you're just getting started and you have a small blog in your space, this is what will happen. And people will come and go and they will never come back. So what you want to do is you want to provide them with even more value, and also you want to benefit from that. So you want to link to your other blog posts. That's what I'm trying to say here. So when somebody reads your blog post, before they jump back never to return, they will actually see like, okay, here's another interesting resource from this same person, so let's read this one as well. And then that repeats in all these blog posts. And all of a sudden you have a person who has spent like an hour reading through all your blog content. And now they already know your name, they know who you are. And this is much better than just having them read one blog post, never to return. So you want to capture your audience and you want to build a personal brand. And what's not a better way to do it than just simply linking to another interesting resource. But now there's one thing you need to be aware of. Do not link for the sake of linking, and don't overwhelm your audience with links. I've seen so many bloggers linking to everywhere. So you have a blog post with 100 words and it has like 30 links. That makes absolutely no sense, because that's not helpful. That's just overwhelming. So you want to be very subtle with this. Link to a couple of external resources and then perhaps one or two of your blog posts, and that's good. And only make sure to link if it makes sense. If you have a blog post about a topic where you don't have any linking opportunities, that is fine. Do not link anywhere. Just as an example, look at this blog post of the best AI headshot generators that I wrote. This blog post is a comprehensive piece of content, and if somebody makes it all the way to the end, they will find links to other relevant content of mine. So for example, here I have an image upscaler article where I talk more about improving image quality with AI, which is directly related to this topic because these headshot generators work only with high quality images. And in fact, earlier in this blog post, I recommended one of these AI upscaler tools. So this perfectly fits into the context of this content. And then also, because I talked about these products that will generate an AI version of yourself as an image, I have included a link to even a more epic tool that will generate a similar video of yourself talking in different languages. So this is how to clone yourself with AI. So this way, I am providing even more value to my audience. So if somebody makes it all the way through the blog post without trying any one of these tools, and they are still interested in learning more, they can read these blog posts. And also, because these people, when I have said that this looks silly, the blog post is over, and these people that come to this blog post or that came to this blog post are going to leave never to return because they encountered this blog post on Google search results. Now, if I'm able to actually give them some reason to stay, I will have them read more of my content, which benefits me because I'm building a personal brand. They're watching more of my stuff. There is a likelihood that they will make a purchase and I will earn even more commissions from them. So this is not only beneficial for them or for my audience, but it's also beneficial for myself. So this is exactly why you want to come up with some blog posts where you want to link at least at the end of the blog post. But you don't always need to do it this way either. You can also do it much earlier. For example, if you're writing a blog post and you're mentioning a funny looking word or a concept or a topic that the audience might be unfamiliar with, if you have covered it elsewhere, make sure to link to it as well, because this provides even more value to your audience. And just remember that you should not leave links for the sake of linking. Only leave links to where it makes sense, and only leave links if that actually helps your audience. If you have a blog post where you don't have any make sense opportunities to link somewhere, then that's fine. Don't link anywhere. That's how easy it is. Don't force links because that's, once again, not original, it's not providing value, and it's only going to make you look worse. Because most of your blog content will end up being very long and detailed, more than a couple of thousand words easily, it makes sense to add some takeaway sections to your blog content. So for example, if you have a tool or a product review list where you have 5 products and the blog post is 5,000 words in length, it might make sense to add a short takeaway section for each product on how you liked it, what's the pricing, whatever you can imagine, what's like relevant information to the audience, what's something that they could take away if they only read that part of the blog post. So that's all about accessibility as well. So if you add these key takeaway sections, you're making it even easier for your audience, and you're taking into account a bigger group of people that might read your content. So because most of the people are busy, they might not want to read every single thing in that blog post, so they can just scroll through to the takeaway section and then go to the next section and do the same. So this is awesome, and this is what I do, especially with my longer blog posts all the time. Writing a key takeaway section can be especially useful if you have written a long piece of content where each section takes a long time to read. So for example, here I am showing all these products and how they work and how to use them and what are the key features, pricing, pros and cons, and whatnot. So this can be quite a long read for somebody who's in a hurry and they might not have the time to do it. So I have created this kind of a bottom line section here, which captures everything that I said above in just a couple of sentences. And this is useful for long form content, which is, by the way, most of the content that you're going to produce. But especially on a list like this makes absolute sense to add a short key takeaway section at the end of each section, to tie it all together, to give an option for the reader to skip through all the way to these key takeaway sections so that they don't have to read everything if they don't care. So this is once again all about accessibility. So the reader has a lot of options. They can just read this kind of a short version here as the introduction where the products are listed, for example, in this case, and then they can read the entire blog post if they want to. They can only read the bottom line sections to get a brief recap on what's going on in each section. So this is all about making the blog post as accessible as possible. It's nothing more, nothing less, but all about accessibility. Before you publish your blog post, make sure to read it out loud. And this helps you, especially with these longer sentences and some parts where you didn't really pay attention to how it reads or how it sounds like. So with this strategy, I am able to spot all kinds of mistakes from my writing. So I read it out loud, then I'm instantly like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. I'll fix it. I'll rearrange or swap around the words, and then it will sound a lot better. And before you publish your blog post, make sure to add call to action sections to your content. And what this means is that you tell them to try a product, watch a video, click to see a blog post, sign up to a newsletter, sign up for a free course, or whatever it is, because as I already mentioned before, most of the people that come to your blog posts are not frequent readers. They are one-way traffic that will come and go. They will just read your content and bounce back, never to return. And you want to capture a portion of this audience because at the end of the day, you want to build your own audience. You don't want to be dependent on Google traffic. You don't want to be dependent on some platforms such as Medium, because those might die down overnight, basically. You might lose all your Google traffic in one day, and you might lose all your Medium audience in one day. But if you're able to capture your audience with a call to action, for example, to a newsletter, you will have access to that newsletter. And the best part is that these people that react to your call to actions, those are always the people that are most interested in your content. So you will be able to catch the most important segment of your audience with these call to actions. So make sure to add one of those at least at the end of your blog post, but you can also add one to very beginning of your content as well. I think this blog post shows perfectly how to use call to actions in blog content. So for example, this blog post lists all the best AI video generators. And even though my goal is to just show the audience how to use this and what kinds of results they can expect, my silent goal is to make them purchase because I will earn some commissions if they do. And that's why I have left all these call to actions here. So for example, here it says try free 4 times. And then even at the end of each of these reviews, I have this try for free section as well. So I have left calls to action to make sure that the audience has at least some kind of an urgency and some kind of a reason to click one of these links and try these products so that I can get compensated for testing all these tools and putting in the work. So you need to add calls to actions to your blog content. But if you're not writing a product review like that, if it's something completely different, you can also do it in a clever way as well there. So you can add a call to action to the end of your blog post. So if somebody reads through your entire blog post, they are probably enjoying it a lot and they probably want to read more of you. And that's what you can do. So you can add a call to action towards the end of the blog content. So once you have finished the content, you can tell the audience to join, for example, on a free course or free training session or download a free book or whatever it is. And this needs to happen in exchange for the audience's email so that you have a direct contact with them, because this is like the most engaged part of your audience and you want to build your own audience. So for example, here, this blog post, Best Blogging Tools, lives on Medium. I do not own Medium. That is a different business. And this is just a blog post with which I get my voice heard. And the people that read this blog post might never come back to my content simply because they found their answer. But thanks to this call to action, I am able to capture a portion of my audience to sign up to my course or to sign up to the free training, and then I can send the audience more emails related to my content. So for example, I use this email list where the people join to promote my new YouTube videos to provide the audience with even more value. And this way I have a contact list and I have a direct access to the most important contingent of my audience, and my audience also knows that I am sending them a ton of valuable information. So that's like a win-win situation when you're using these call to actions in your blog posts. So it's been a really long list of things to do to write a good quality piece of blog post. But at the end of the day, this is just one single blog post. So if you want to become a successful blogger and if you want to have millions of readers like I have done, you need to repeat this a lot of times. And as I stated before, I have written more than 1,000 blog posts with this strategy. And I'm not saying you need to write 1,000 blog posts, but you want to write a ton of content and you want to repeat this for years to see significant results. And this is something that you will never be told anywhere else, but this is just the reality. You need to write a lot of content and you need to solve problems for your audience like nobody else has done before. This way you will establish yourself as a credible voice in your space, you will build a loyal following, a personal brand, and you will be somebody that people want to listen to.